All right, folks, while we're waiting for a few more people to join on, I want to just make sure that all of our systems are running smoothly, make sure that you can hear me, that you can see me, you can see the PowerPoint. And I also want to make sure that your systems are working on your end as well. So if you want to go ahead and put in the chat box where you're watching from, just so that I can make sure that it's all running smoothly. I am watching from Baltimore, Maryland. Rosalynn, where are you joining us from?
And I am coming to you from Blaine, Minnesota.
Andrew, North Carolina. I was just in Charlotte last weekend. We have Florida. We got another Maryland.
Oh, Eden Prairie. Hi, Kim. Are you as jealous as I am of our Florida guest?
I want to be in the sunshine.
Yes, yes. I'm fortunate to have a best friend in St. Petersburg, Florida, so I get to make some much needed trips. Yes, we do have great weather today. That's so true. That was our Florida friend, but we have great weather in Minnesota today for what we've been at. So, you know, we're praising our sunshine and 44 degrees right now.
I hear you. Here in Maryland, it was raining all day yesterday. Luckily, we didn't get any snow, but we're supposed to have beautiful sunshine the rest of the week. So I'm excited about that.
That sounds lovely.
All right. Well, I just want to say good afternoon. My name is Madeline. I'll be your host for today. Today's presentation, How to Connect Your Culture to Resonate Your Brand. Today's webinar is brought to you by Leap. Leap is a sales software that reduces errors or redundancies that slow down your sales process. Leap allows the owner or someone accountable to control all your pricing, profits, and margins in one central location. Whether you're roofing, window, siding, flooring, kitchen and bath, or any other home service, you can use the power of Leap to make your customizable sales platforms your own. With Leap, you can take your documents, estimates, brochures, personal checks, handwritten notes, and measurements and put them in one digital location to power your business. I am going to launch a poll here. If you'd like to set up some time with our team to see how to customize your digital estimates for your sales process with Leap, you can indicate yes, and your team will reach out to you shortly. Have a conversation with us today, and we'll send you a gift card to have lunch on us. And if we're a good fit, we'll actually give you $500 off your Leap subscription for joining the webinar today. As most of you know, we do have a monthly Leap giveaway going on currently. And as being a registrant and attending today's webinar, you actually got one entry. So great job to all of you. But if you do indicate yes and you attend that webinar, you're going to get 10 extra entries. So that's always exciting. And just for a reminder, we are going to be giving away 3 iPads, an exclusive one-on-one coaching session with D2D sales expert Sam Taggart. So I'm going to leave it up for just a few more seconds if you want to go ahead and go in there and push yes, or maybe later. Either one is perfectly okay. All right, perfect. Thank you for doing that poll. I really appreciate it. And now I'd love to introduce to you our lovely host for today, Rosalynn Verges. Rosalynn is a certified train-to-trainer who has coached Fortune 500 companies and privately held small businesses with 10 plus years of certified professional in human resources and master levels training from the University of South Dakota in organizational development. She offers invaluable insight on what it takes to create great places to work. And now I'm going to pass this over to Roz. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so she can pull up her PowerPoint for us.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the kind introduction. We'll go ahead and get started here. So today we are going to tap into your culture as a successful recruiting tool. Now, as one of the coaches at ContractorCoachPro, I get asked a lot about recruiting. I know it's always kind of top of mind for our clients, and I'm sure for anyone watching and listening too, no matter really what stage you're at in your business, having people on your team always kind of starts to become important, and thinking about that in a way that's maybe a little unique and a little different is what I'm hoping to share with you today. But as we get started, I actually have a little trivia for you. We're going to get the juices flowing, the wheels turning. So if you can answer in the chat what you think the projected global spend on advertising for 2022 will be. So just kind of ballpark, what do you think the projected global spend for this year is? So go ahead, put it in the chat. And Madeline, I'll let you tell me when we feel kind of good about the number of people we've got answers in. Closest to the answer is actually going to get some CCP swag. So go ahead and give your best guess, and I'll let you know what the projection is for 2022. All right, I'm going to give you a countdown in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for those guesses. All right, are you ready for this? The projected global spend on advertising for this year by Zenith Media is almost $770 billion. Right? Crazy, crazy, crazy. Now, why do I tell you this? I share this with you because it's a little bit about really who I am. I'm truly the HR coach with marketing roots. So when I started in this industry as a coach, I actually first started in human resources, got my PHR certification. Madeline shared a little bit, worked with Fortune 500 companies, some small companies, but I also have this really unique twist to me where I have marketing roots. You can see here on the left is the Minnesota Twins. I had a tremendous privilege of working for an experiential marketing agency and doing activations for global brands across the country, including the Minnesota Twins. So got to do some really cool experiential marketing. And it just informed so much about how I kind of think about and approach human resources and how we can maybe tweak some of what we do from an HR side, specifically when it comes to recruiting and reaching out to our employees. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background about advertising and marketing, a reason that I love it. One of the things that's interesting to me is as early as 4000 BC, they actually found advertising on walls. People would etch and carve advertisements, I don't know, for sheep or something, right, into the walls for people to see. And so that's really when historians have traced back as far as they can to initial signs of advertising. In the 19th century, that's when advertising and marketing that we think of today kind of came into the forefront, where people started doing newsprint advertising. And then the game really changed in the 20th century when these two gentlemen, Walter Scott and John Watson, came about with kind of this mindset of how can we take human behavior and start to manipulate it toward advertising and marketing. So now starting to understand, like, what's the psychology? What are people thinking about? What are buying patterns that they're having? What's influencing their choices? And they started to identify and understand that, we can pull some levers in people's brains, so to speak, to influence how they buy, when they buy, et cetera. And so that introduction of psychology and human behavior into advertising really happened in the 20th century. And then if we think about it today, this is where advertising and marketing has really taken a turn, right? Everything is really about experience. It's about understanding your environment. It's about placement. There's so much data and analytics that go into advertising today. We're seeing experiences. Like I said, I worked for an experiential firm that would do activations like this, where we would connect people to the brand, not just from talking about the brand, not just from, helping people understand that they should try samples, but really giving these larger than life experiences that created memories, that created a connection of, I'm a human person interacting and becoming literally a part of the brand. And you can see that in this sprite example here, people are literally becoming a part of interacting with the brand itself. So when we think about this in terms of even today, you're starting to see that transformation of augmentation and VR come into the fold. And we even see that, I think, in our industry and home services a lot, where we have digital roofs, right? People can try before they buy, they can sample things out in their own home, all kinds of features that advertising and marketing has really just excelled at. And so when I started thinking about the advertising and marketing world and started thinking about HR, it really led me to this question. Why is it that on the outside as organizations, we are incredibly put together, right? We've got all kinds of data analytics. I'm sure yourselves, you're investing in marketing, right? And the message that you put out, the way that you talk to your clients, hopefully you've got it very polished, and you know how to present this amazing image of yourself to your customers, right? How to tell your story. But then when I thought about it, I was like, man, for our external customers, this is what it looks like, right? But when it comes to our internal customers, our employees, it's kind of more like this, right? It's like we've left the house totally unfinished. And so from a human resources side, I started thinking about this concept of what if human resources started to adopt principles from marketing? Because the reality is marketing's killing it, you guys, right? They get it. They understand how to do it. And the reality is that sales to your customers is a very similar process and concept as sales to your potential and current employees, right? Communication, connecting people to your brand. These things become essential. And so I thought today I would share with you 3 great things that marketers do to attract customers. And then I want to take those things and flip our lens a little bit and think about how we could apply those concepts really to recruiting and our employees that we're hoping to bring on board. So here are your 3 things that great marketers do. Why is it that marketers are killing it? Well, for one, they tell their story. There's nothing more important to a marketer typically than other than data maybe, is the story, right? The story that they're telling is essential. The second thing, and that's maybe where that data comes in, is that they really understand their customers. They work hard to understand the customers that they have, what they're interested in, and so forth. And then 3, they really examine the customer journey. So they take time to understand what it's like to be a customer or even a potential customer interacting with their brand. So how does this apply to recruiting? Well, let's talk about 3 things that great recruiters do. First of all, they communicate their culture. They communicate the culture of the organization. Number 2, they understand their employees. And 3, they examine the applicant journey. So I'm going to take you through these 3 core things and give you some tips that you can start implementing today to totally reframe how you recruit, to put on that marketing lens and attract some talent to your organization. So the first one is to really communicate your culture. This is essential. Like I said, any great marketer understands that you need to tell a compelling story. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with this gentleman here. I'll give you points again in the chat. Call out if you know who this gentleman in this picture is. Feel free to give references. I'll give you just a couple seconds. Again, winner gets some CCP swag first to answer. I'll let you put it in the chat. We'll give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is LeVar Burton. You may know, yes, Kim, good job. He is the host of Reading Rainbow. You may also know him from Star Trek for some of my other fans out there. But LeVar Burton was the host of Reading Rainbow. I loved this show when I was a kid. I remember gathering around the TV with my cousins and just being read to. I mean, I think if we take a minute to pause and just reflect on our culture, human beings, at the heart of us, everybody loves a good story. And so what you need to do as organizations is we really do need to start to understand what is the story that we're telling about our brand, not just to our customers, but also to our employees. And when it comes to our employees and the story that they're going to be most interested in, our applicants are going to be most interested in, it's really about our culture. And so I want you to ask yourself are you telling a compelling story about your culture? Do people understand? And kind of with that question comes does your company actually have a defined culture? Have you taken time to write out what your core values are, what your purpose is, what your vision for the organization is? As owners, if we don't have clarity on this story, there's really no way for our employees to understand it. If we sell roofs and that's all we do, then our employees don't really see much about our culture if that's all we're communicating. Now, if we say like, hey, we don't only just sell roofs, we connect with people in our community, we find out who is in need, and we provide those people in need with free assistance or whatever you do. Those things become a bigger part of your culture, right? They paint a bigger picture more than just what you do. They really paint this picture of who you are. And that's what your applicants are truly looking for and interested in learning about. And it's important, right? 4 out of 5 employees feel like they are more engaged when their work that they do is consistent with their core values and the mission of the organization. So when it comes to employees who are prospective people, they're out there searching for a job, they want to know what your culture is going to be like. And they're looking for that information. So you really do need to be communicating that. I have the pleasure of working for ContractorCoachPro, where our core values are to love, serve, and care. And you guys, they are so integrated in every conversation that we are having, not only with the people that we coach, but with our internal team. It really impacts how we all look at each other, how we all look at our work, how we look at our customers. And so those things, having a clear story of who we are and what our culture is about, really drive and influence a lot of our team, but also who we hire. So the reality is, when it comes to our organization, people start to see that from the outside. Our culture is just brought to life by having that shared alignment. And then people looking in, they start to identify that. They see that shared value, that shared culture within us, and they see, man, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that. The last 2 people that we've brought on at ContractorCoachPro, actually even probably more than that, our team's been growing. None of them were actually coming through a traditional applicant process. We didn't have to post jobs to hire people. It was truly all about people coming to us because they wanted to be a part of the CCP team. It's such a gift when you can communicate your story and let people know really what you're doing so that they can be attracted to that and become a part of it. And it's important from an ROI standpoint as well. Companies that actively manage their culture, they see revenue increases of really 4x what companies that are not actively managing it are doing. And so that alone should incentivize you to really invest in, to take time to think about your company culture, to write out what that story is, and to identify, okay, what is it that we're going to communicate about who we are, about what we do, and really the impact that we make on the people around us more than just ourselves. So as you start to define that, the next tip is really to utilize social media. This is so important when it comes to activating your culture. Again, how you communicate that culture matters. And so you can post on your Facebook page or on your social media of projects that you've completed or things that you've done. But it's also a great opportunity to use your social media to post about your recent company retreat that you took, or a trip that your team won, or recognizing somebody who's been on your team as they're celebrating an anniversary. Putting our employees' faces on our social media, again, gives our people who are prospective applicants a bigger window into seeing what our culture is all about. So starting by managing that culture, activating it, and then really communicating it through that social lens is a great way to attract talent and new applicants. The other thing I would say is to really start to write your employee value proposition. Now, just like in sales, you probably have some statements that you've written out, some scripts that you follow that help your customers identify the value of coming to be a part of your fold, right? That when they buy services from you, or when they experience your product or services, that there's some value that they're going to get. And the same concept can be applied to your employees. If you think about what is your employee value proposition. Now, bonus points if you can tie this into those core values. Now, I'll give you an example. I worked with a client who their core value, one of their core values was adventure, right? And so that employee value proposition became, we promise you more than just a job. We promise you an adventure of a lifetime. Man, what a more meaningful way to connect with people as they're coming on board. If I'm an applicant and I'm, throwing my hat into all these different rings, which one am I going to be more drawn to? The one that's just kind of like, yep, we've got a job for you, or the one that is offering something more? They're communicating the value that they provide to the employees, right? Now, sometimes those EVPs, those employee value propositions, can be tricky to understand, tricky to write. And so I want to give you some tips on that. But before I do, the same concept really starts from understanding, again, those core values, your culture. So in this example, the same company, they actually utilize their core values into their benefits. And so they offer their employees a stipend to go on an adventure. Again, that's part of that overall employee value proposition that they can offer is, hey, we're going to give you money, but you have to leave the country to use it. Once you've reached a certain tenure, we're going to give you those dollars to go out and explore, because adventure is so much of who we are. And we truly do want you to have the adventure of a lifetime coming to work for us. And so it's concepts like that, where we're taking our culture and we're really starting to bring it to life and create value for potential employees. Now, one thing that really helps in being able to communicate your employee value proposition is that tip number 2 that a great recruiter does, which is to really understand your employee experience. It is crucial to identify really, why do people stay at your organization? I like to share this picture of the Twin Cities Turkey Day 5K. I've run this 5K many times, especially in my younger years with my aunt. And my aunt used to always say, you have to run for your pie on Thanksgiving. Just a joke, of course. Even if you didn't run, you could still have the pie. But the concept was there, right? I wasn't going to the Turkey Day 5K just to go run it. It truly was not because I was trying to get exercise. It was about having this fun experience with my aunt, right? I also joke that I will run just about any race for a t-shirt. For some reason, those 5K t-shirts used to always call my name. But that's what I came back for, right? And so the same concept applies with, sometimes we think our employees are coming for one reason. So for example, we may think that our employees are coming to us, or our candidates are coming to us because we pay great. But the reality might be that, it's actually not about the money. It's about the environment that we create. Maybe we've got incredible flexibility with our schedules. Maybe we offer great remote work opportunities. Maybe we offer great perks or benefits like, hey, we buy lunch a lot for our team. Or maybe, we don't have the dollars because we're starting out to invest in a lot of extra things, but we invest time. We are ruthless when it comes to our schedules about making sure that we as leaders carve out time to meet with our employees one-on-one, to make sure that we're spending time mentoring them and developing them. Those are things that might be why your employees are staying. And so the very first part of really understanding that employee experience is to identify why people stay. Now, ways to uncover that might look like simply asking your employees, what is it that you love most about working here? It might look like having those conversations and trying different things out with your team to see what is working, reflecting back on different initiatives that you tried, and kind of gauging what was it that attracted your different applicants, and then why did those employees stay? So play around with that and start to identify what is it about your organization, because that can help really shape that employee value proposition that you're sharing. Once you've started to understand that, you can also understand your employee experience through what we call brand ambassadors. So in the activation world, we would have people who were a part of not necessarily the company itself, but were a part of the experience. They would go out and they would connect with people and they would be ambassadors for the brand. The reality is that as you understand your employee experience, you can start to identify who are those people that are within your organization that naturally just kind of are great at talking about why it's great to work for you. You're getting those people out into the world, you're activating them to really start to talk about what it's like to come to work for your organization. A couple of different ways that I've seen organizations do this really well is to create videos. They may have some employees on their team that are sharing like a day in the life, so to speak, of what it's like to be on the team. So they're going out, they're maybe recording some of their day-to-day activities. And that person is somebody who's really kind of what we're used to thinking of it as an influencer, right? They're your hype person. Now, if you think about influencers today in the world of social media, Steph Curry is one that always comes to my mind as an influencer. They're people who really are going to give the hype, right? Who are those people? And so I would take some time as you're understanding your employee experience to identify who are the people in your organization that are great at influencing others, that are great at talking about what it's like to work for you. And they just kind of naturally do it, right? They have that charismatic energy. They're good at talking about what they do. Now, one thing that I would call out too, when I think about those brand ambassadors that we had back in my marketing days, we always gave them a script, right? So we gave them the touch points on, hey, here are the things that we want to say. So this is a great call out. If you don't have clear job descriptions, it might be a good time to start to develop those because those job descriptions help your brand ambassadors, your internal brand ambassadors, communicate about the position. If you're starting to get the word out there and you want to activate your employees in that process, I've seen companies do things like referral bonuses for their internal employees if they do that. If they bring people on board, those can be great incentives. Just remember that you want to make sure that your employees understand what it is that you're actually looking for in your applicants. They understand the details of the job, and they understand clearly what that process is for how you're going to go about hiring. There's really nothing worse when you've got employees who are coming to you and they're saying like, hey, I've got this person that I think would be great. And you get that resume, you look it over, or you've kind of given a quick glance at who that person is. And you're like, oh, I'm not really sure they're a good fit. This is a very disheartening feeling for that employee who brought somebody to you. And really that disconnect came probably because we didn't give a whole lot of clarity on what would be a good candidate. And so the more we can create those scripts for our employees and give them the clarity, the more we can really truly help to activate them, and they can become those great influencers within their community to attract people to our organizations. And then when it comes to understanding our employee experience, the last thing that I would be remiss if I didn't touch on is truly reviews. You do need to have clarity as to what it's like being that applicant. We're going to talk about that applicant journey. What are your employees saying about you? When it comes to search engines today for jobs such as Glassdoor, you better believe that they are doing company reviews. People who are searching for jobs are looking at information like how your core values are, what was your career opportunities, what's your work-life balance. This information is out there, most likely about your organization right now. And so it's important for you to get a gauge of what the reviews are looking like and take some of that feedback to heart so that you can start to maybe try to tip that employee experience even more in your favor. So really that comes to kind of that third point of examining the applicant journey. Now, if you were an applicant, remember that our applicants are going online to look at things like those Glassdoor reviews. They're searching for that information. And so we want to think about what is that path that our applicants take. Now, from a marketing and advertising standpoint, we call this journey mapping. We track kind of the customer path that they follow, and we start to identify, okay, where are those different touch points that we may interact with them. So from an applicant standpoint, what are those touch points that you may interact with them? Maybe when they're just starting out and they're trying to learn more about your company, they're looking on social media, they're looking on your website, right? Maybe they've attended an event that you've put on, a learning opportunity, or you've done something in the community and they kind of caught wind of that and we're watching from the peripheral, right? People get attracted to our company as well before we are aware that they are looking into us or investigating us. And so kind of paying attention to what is that journey that our applicants take and what does that experience look like? Do they even know that you're hiring? How do they find out that information? For example, after finding a job opening, there's research that's been done that 64% of candidates look for more information about that company online. And 37% of those candidates said that they would just move on to another job opening if they can't find information out about the company. And so it's important to understand, what does that look like? What is the information that's out there for your applicants? Is it clear for them if they want to be a part of your organization for them to be able to apply? What does that application process look like? Do they have to provide a full resume? Can they simply send you their LinkedIn profile? Starting to identify your applicant process and experience really shapes your overall experience for those applicants coming into your organization and can either increase or decrease the number of candidates that you have. When we think about this, again, kind of from that marketing lens, really, as we're bringing our customers, we're attracting them in, it's very similar to what we would think about from the sales side as it is for our applicants, right? First is to really identify their problem. Your applicants are most likely already working or they've recently left an organization, probably for a reason, right? If they're looking for a new job, there's something that's drawing them away from their position. So it's important to start to think about and reflect on as we're recruiting people, what might be some of the reasons that people are moving away from their current job. Maybe the technology that they're using is out of date. Maybe, they're tired and frustrated with having to deal with managers that are not equipped to actually lead them, right? There are some core reasons that people might be migrating from a different job and toward your job. And so you want to start to pay attention to what those are and be able to call them out, and then really start to solve their problems, right? So if technology was an issue, maybe you're an organization that invests in great software like our friends at Leap. Maybe you are somebody who just is very committed to getting your leaders coached up with a company like CCP. Maybe you love to take your employees out with their families, and the problem that that some of those applicants were experiencing was not having enough time with the people that they love, right? And so when we identify those problems, we can start to solve them, and we can tailor our recruiting conversations, or recruiting advertisements, our Facebook posts, our social media, whatever, even our job postings. We can start to speak into how we solve the problems that our applicants might be experiencing. And kind of the third thing that I see marketers do really well from this applicant journey piece is really letting customers either buy now or buy later. There's really this on-ramp, right? Hey, you might not be ready to be an employee of our company today, but what's that on-ramp? How can you maybe become a part in the future? Maybe you're not hiring today, but you know that, hey, come June, we're going to need some more people. What is that on-ramp process? I'll give you kind of a pro tip that I love to share with my clients. is to invite your potential applicants into some of your employee events. If you've got somebody that you know, hey, this person's a gem, we're not ready to bring them on right now. Maybe that opening's a couple months down the road, but you don't want to lose them as a potential applicant. Something that you can do is you can start to incorporate them into the fold even before they become a part of your organization. This is a great way to just even get a better gauge of how do they interact with other people on your team. Are they a good fit with your culture? It gives you a little more insight than you may get if they just did an interview. And so feel free to engage with potential applicants, those star players that you hope to get on your team someday, by activating them and making them a part of your fold even before they're ready to come on board. Finding a job has been reported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics as one of the most difficult and painful things that people do. It's been rated as being more discomforting than moving, than divorce, than public speaking, and even going to the dentist. But yet people are leaving their jobs at record numbers than the Bureau of Labor Statistics has ever seen. And you know what? 1 in 5 people say that culture is the most important thing that they are looking for when they are looking for a new job. And so I hope that if you took away anything, you really start to focus in on your culture, your messages, and you really start to activate these things for your benefit. Think like marketers do those 3 things that great recruiters do by communicating your culture, understanding your employee experience, and taking time to really examine what that applicant journey looks like for people who are coming onto your organization. If you have any questions, I'd love to take them and just chat about anything else. Or if you want to go off topic and just talk to an HR coach about something else, I'm happy to answer those questions as well.
While we're waiting for some questions to roll in the chat box, I have a question for you, Roz.
Absolutely.
As someone who recently did get a new job, here I am at Leaf, it's amazing. But I didn't really know where to start. I was just going on these like different platforms, Indeed, Glassdoor, all those ones that you said. And from an employee standpoint, or as an employer standpoint, would you say that adding the quick apply on Indeed, the quick apply on Glassdoor, do you think that's beneficial? Do you think that you should have the employees put in a little more effort so that you're kind of getting higher quality employees rather than quantity?
That's such a great question. And I think it really depends on your probably your recruiting needs. So it depends on the stage of your organization in that is your problem that you have too much applicant flow, right? Like, hey, we're an organization where we just get applicants left and right, and we almost need to slow down the process a little bit because we're getting flooded with people. Or is the problem like, hey, we just don't have enough applicants and we would love to have more people, right? So when we examine that applicant journey, we can look at our process and say, are we creating barriers? I love the quick apply personally, because to me, I'd rather have more candidates to go through than potentially miss somebody because my applicant process was clunky. The same is true with sales, right? Like we want to keep the flow to purchase really easy for our customers, right? We want it to be simple for them to buy, so to speak, right? I'd rather maybe take a little time on my pre-screening process and weed out some of those applicants versus just lose people who could be really great because my applicant process is inefficient. Now, that said, if we're bombarded, adding in some of those pre-qualifiers, pre-screen questions can make a big difference. Yeah, great question. Anything?
Any other questions here? I have another one just from speaking with so many contractors. I know an issue that the contractors are having is they're getting applicants, but they're not necessarily the best of the quality. Do you have anything to say on that? Because I know that's a big issue in the industry right now.
Yeah, I would say I have two core thoughts on that. One is, again, just thinking about that applicant process. Are you being clear in communicating what the job is actually like? I mean, sometimes we are out there selling our job, slinging it like it's the best thing for every person, when the reality is like, no, if you don't like being outside, if you aren't good at managing your time well, this might not be a good job for you, right? And so I think trying to create and paint more of an honest picture of what the job looks like can really help in that process. Like I mentioned earlier, activating your employees and giving them clear understanding of what the job really looks like and entails, what a great candidate looks like and entails for you is another important factor in that. And then I would say, again, I see a lot of organizations where they're posting job descriptions that don't actually align with the true responsibilities of the job. And so it's harder for people to opt out or opt in because it's very general and vague. If you can actually get more specific in your job descriptions, it's going to help you give more clarity to your applicants. The reality is we'll always get people that are like, oh, maybe not quite the right fit for us. But the more we have clarity on what a good candidate looks like, the better we can quickly weed through those options. Yeah.
That definitely makes sense. Well, thank you for answering those.
Absolutely.
Anyone else?
Great question.
Do we have any other questions? Well, I wanted to thank you so much for coming today, Roz. I know I learned a ton from you, and as our attendees also did. For our attendees, if you liked what Roz had to say, we're going to have another webinar next week with actually Chuck Thoki, who is also he's our sales coach for Contractor Coach Pro, and he's going to be jumping into sales training. So Roz is going to talk to you a little bit how to get the right recruiting going and all of that, and then Chuck is going to get you how to retain them and really get a good sales team going. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at bespoke@leaptodigital.com, or I'm going to send an email tomorrow with a little recording of this video, and feel free to respond if you have any questions for Rosalynn or I, and I'll make sure to get those answered. Thank you so much, Roz. I hope you had a good time, and I hope to see everyone next week.
Thanks, Madeline. Have a great day.